Welcome to Dojo 2.99. It's March 6th. It's been an active week this week, both in JTL content as well as the tribe's work in the dojo. I want to say, first off, I really appreciate everyone's work in the dojo. In the last one marked Best Apocalypse Ever. Really just saw you guys displaying an alchemical prowess that, I mean, you take the heaviness that we're all going through really and make it something that's relatable, and it's uplifting to see you guys working with all that stuff. And it's been a difficult week. Renee talks about being vibe liable, and as I've watched a lot of this stuff go on from a great distance, I haven't turned on the cable news or anything. I just see pictures of dead soldiers. Anyways, this has been my vibe a lot this week, and it still feels like more of a liability than an asset, as don't know how to bond with others with what I'm working through, but I'm bonding with you guys vicariously, and James, really just great stuff today. From a lot of different angles, you talk about Josephus. And he's a somewhat consistent fixture in the things we work with around here. I feel like you usually talk about him in a way that is that shows an example of his ilk's character. I was introduced to Josephus mostly. I always took it as an instrument to destroy any credibility associated with Christianity because it names him as the author of the Christian faith in a sense. Is that correct?
It's a really, I think you're looking at people fighting over history. And right now, uh, um, the latest really good argument, right, is Josephus shaped most of the early Christian writings. I think it's more complicated than that, and I'm a little bit more flexible over how exactly happened. This is why I talk about the Gospel of Lust. Actually, you're watching me, experiment with how did all this happen, because it doesn't ring true for me that all of this was accomplished by Josephus in the sense of the Caesar's Messiah, that he's able to rewrite the entire religious context of how everyone would think, ridicule them while he's doing it, by the way, create very obvious parabolic riddles that are blended in kind of ridiculous faith. Jonah and the whale is a perfect example of this. That it's there's nothing wrong with the story of Jonah and the whale, but if you read a lot of scholarship, this was something that was used to poke fun of how naive people were, that they would tell stories of, oh, I was swallowed by a fish. That's what happened. And hey, the dog ate my homework. It's sort of this excuse that a lot of times that the story of Jonah and the whale is used. Of course, you guys have probably heard the idea that the fisher of men could have been a story about Roman soldiers using spears to kill Jews that were rebelling, but their boat was sank at sea, and that the fisher of men was a call for a Roman soldier that was just harpooning these guys in the chest. That's how easy it was to kill them because they wanted to survive so much. This is Rome's a brutal regime, but more importantly, Jews are a brutal rebellion to that regime. Why do you think the Ark of Titus is basically just a giant stone sculpture of, oh my God, we fucking finally killed the Jews? That doesn't happen if the Jews are like, oh, it was just the Jews. It was like, no, we fucking finally got the Jews. And you're looking at, it wasn't even the Jews, it was the people of Judah. This strong arm cult of revolutionaries, ex-slaves, allianced into a rebel confederacy, and some of them really, really got off on being psychopathic jaguars. All of this I think Caesar's Messiah, this is this work referencing the idea that Josephus basically wrote the New Testament. I think it's important. I mean, yeah, rewrote the New Testament. I think it's important to consider the Nicene Creed, everything that was happening during that time. More importantly, I think it's really important to start to look at the life of Paul and just how transitory his life was as a sort of a bridge between prehistoric Christianity and modern Christianity. And that's when you start to look back into the mystical Lazarian Christianity, the death cult religion Christianity, the more personal apocryphal Christianity, and how that would never survive the appetite of the masses. And so the appetite of the masses, I think, is highly attributable to Josephus. This is a huge, long way of explaining. Sorry. I think Josephus is the missing link that shows you the appetite of the masses for how these things fit in. A state-sponsored religion that could be printed in a book that, I mean, Romans 13, I think, like literally one of the most cuckish scriptures you can possibly have, which is like, thou shalt pay your taxes. And thinking about the most rebellious hill people, the Canaanite rebellious hill people were down with this being in their book. Of course not. Of course not. Right. But the folly of how it's so blatantly out there is part of, I think, the magic of the Bible. See, this is why I love the Bible. I love the Bible that has this verse where thou shalt go to heaven if you pay your taxes. This is exactly what I needed to read. It's also primarily why you don't hear me talk a lot about the New Testament. I don't spend a lot of time in the New Testament. I think that's a great religious doctrine, but also I look at it kind of in the same way I used to romanticize Taoism. I still love Taoism. I still love Buddhism. I'm sorry I give them a hard time, but I give Christianity the same hard time. I hope you can see the egalitarianness there. Because in all three of these religions, there is tied deep into it a form of thought control that allows a people, a populace to simply exist. And one of the best ways of doing that would be to turn the other cheek. This is a brilliant philosophy if you're trying to create a civilization in Rome. But meanwhile, the deep underlying cult stuff of it, I truly think this is why you were circumcising yourself. You were admitting that you had a lustful psyche that was untenable, untrustable, that you had to do something that would permanently attach you to an obedience to yourself. And I can't believe I'm even saying this because what led me into truth as I really started looking at circumcision. I'm like, so wait, what the fuck? Wait, what? I used to have a part of me and it was cut off. Now it's like standard. It's like default. Why is this happening? And it's nothing has led me more to think more about these things than circumcision. And when I start to found that Egyptian cults were doing this, but more importantly, the pharaohs would do this first in public, that it was a kind of pact with the community that I want to find my frontal lobe. I want to exist in a temperance and an abstinence type state. And this is such a revolution. So I tend to I see a place for Josephus, but I think underneath it all, Josephus, keep in mind, Josephus was a fucking plagiarist. That guy literally plagiarized every other thing that he ever found and said, I wrote this, I wrote this. In fact, I plagiarized useful charts. I was trying to explain today that these slides that I got came from this really amazing video called Useful Charts because it's the first thing that got me to really look at the Benjamites and how they fit into history. Anyway, point is, I'm a plagiarist, so is he. But the plagiarism of Josephus is so saturated. In fact, the only good things he wrote tended to be plagiarized like that. So this shows you even more, or shows me even more, that there was something on the street, something real, something deeply real that was dangerous to Rome, and that Josephus wanted to constantly cuck himself to Rome. From the moment he was found in the cave, he was like, "I will suck any appendage. Just let me live. let me be one of you. He was given the name Flavius to be captured by Flavius and to please that guy so much that he ends up giving you his name shows you all of the characteristics you need to understand about the former general of the most sacred land of Galilee and what he was willing to do to survive. So, Josephus, the truth of Josephus, I love. I love that he was so honest with us. And we don't even know if all that he said is true, but fuck, if he's showing himself to be this much of a cuck, I would say it's probably like 11 million times worse. It's probably so much more debased. And it comes back to I always say that it burns when I see, because the truth of where we have our reverence is probably placed on some ancient fucking pedophile that did something awful to lay claim to something, and we're using that person's name. It's no different than the Sioux, that we will say the name Sioux, even though that technically means the snake headed people. But even the Sioux use the word Sioux right now. So it's okay, but it's part of that hidden history that comes. That's why I'm constantly looking at what would be the most shameful. Why is Christianity such an anti sex cult in the sense of like compared to where it came from? Then there's circumcision. Then there's Josephus. There's all the rebel spirit, but then underneath it, you have this as why was it always associated with femininity? Why was this cult of Christianity first considered donkey boys? Why were they considered uh, super lame, non-virile, non-manly? All those combined, Josephus is just one tiny, tiny little piece of this. Uh, are informing me, whether wrongly or is who knows, right? It's just more entertaining to just explore all these different, avenues of the labyrinth. But I will say it has to be so much more profound than Josephus was able to shape the entire vernacular of Christianity now. Because when I look at what Paul did, I think he did that more than anyone else when he removed this conceptual personal idea of Christianity, which I think is, rightfully so, kind of necessary. If you're going to create a colloquial Christianity that everyone accepts, you're going to normalize it like this. It's just, if you're going to put something on the shelves of Walmart, this is what it's going to look like. So I'm not as against Paul as I may sound. It's just that it's such a different form of Christianity pre that era and after that era.
You, yeah, I mean, I see a challenge, and there's certainly something labyrinthine about this relationship between Rome, which, as I still continue to try to undress all of these narrative impositions between me and some idea of freshness I'm trying to reclaim, where I can see again. Uh, Rome is like this great villain, but then through like little insights of like Freud and how he loved Hannibal, and there's this like there seems like there's this undertone of this resentment and revenge to the Roman model to take it over. I don't know, it's labyrinthine, and it's probably not something that we're going to solve here now. Mary Jo, thank you for raising your hand. It's good to see you.
Hi. I was gonna ask about Benjamites, and I wondered where we could read more about the Benjamites. And I know you just said it, James, but I didn't quite get it.
I'm interested in Benjamite too, and I don't want to interrupt over Mary Jo's question, but I sometimes like, as I am trying to undress again these narrative impositions, I still uh, like a Benjamite. It almost seems like it's wide reaching, like it criminalizes a tribe or something. I'm just
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
criminalizing the tribe. That's me. It's also one of the more rebel tribes, one of the more historically more prone to war, more prone to suicidal tactics, just causing a lot of hell. And they typically be the one in charge. I highly recommend Dr. Henry Abramson. I've just posted a link in the chat. The link is not necessarily to here's a video. It just happens to be the last one I had in his history. I've been listening to this guy for years. My favorite thing about Dr. Henry Abramson is that he's a Jew. It's honestly is the only reason why I really highly recommend him because this is what I said that I love so much about Judaism is because these dudes will write anything down. They will they will tell you literally just their worst secrets, just the worst stuff you could possibly imagine. And I really highly respect Abramson because he does that. He tells you the true story of Josephus. He tells you the true story of not necessarily all this stuff because he's more of just a scholar himself, but it's just really fascinating guy. And one of the things I wanted to uh, push today is um, I think it's this one. This is the probably the most quintessential academic shortwave 30 minutes. You're going to be like, holy shit, this is great. It's from Useful Charts. It's a YouTube channel. I've just posted that in there too. And it shows you the 12 tribes of the origin of the 12 tribes of Israel. Matt Baker, the guy that I think he's the guy behind this. He's Jewish also, but he's very academic in his approach to things, and he covers a lot of what I covered today much better than I did today. I wish I would have had a more polished show today, but sometimes I just can't get enough into the canon in time before it's time to go live. But I always talk about this anyway. It was a good opportunity today just to spit out more. I've been wanting to uh, granulize this stuff better for everyone. And I think the Benjamites just fitting because of everything that's happening. And more importantly, the idea of revelation. I want people to know that there's a lot of Benjamites, a lot of people that are pressuring Benjamin Netanyahu that he's not going fast enough, that he's not pushing for all of this more. He's not being vicious enough. He's not being relentless enough. He's not being evil enough. Seriously. And that there is a strong sect that believes that they fail God if they do not make this happen in 6,000 years. I think that there is a powerful uh, faction of the world that is in line with this idea because it's so profitable. I talk about 9/11 being a pillage all the time because I just think if you look at the mechanics of what a pillage is, you start to see why this is a profitable thing that happens when you collectively hunt. A pack of animals will choose to maybe attack in sequence and tandem because it's profitable for them. 9/11 was a pillage because you had an opportunity where everyone knew, or a select group of predators knew what was going to happen on a certain day and they could plan accordingly. So it was never a central plan, or the central plan has been overcome by all of the iterations of the subplots that have been built around the pillage. Really, all a pillage is a date, it's an opportunity. And I think that the Benjamites have capitalized on the idea of pillage of Holocaust for a long, 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 long time since the Bronze Age, and that this would be the story in the Bible of of Cain, of this sort of broken spirit that is able to do really well because they feel a vengeance, a fire has been lit underneath them. This is why it's important to me, and we're unable to see the scope of this evil. I know we've talked about this before, but seriously, I applaud you that you were so naive to how decrepit these people are. I really mean that. Like it's a testament to how important it is that you keep that innocence. Like it's a crucial part of it. And when you study aperture, it's important that we remember we're never going to be able to see this kind of conniving. It's so much more ruthless than we're able to even have the stomach for, is what I think. And it's just important to keep that in mind because it's built into the system. I think nature does that on purpose. It's really important that you have a large collection of people witnessing this. That seems to be the most biggest fulcrum when it comes to conscious growth throughout the species.
the closest I can come to trying to understand this greater audience that seems to be being served. I look at, again, I was talking about, and this is, James, this is something I learned from you, but this is me, like, I guess, trying to rationalize my rage, and or find a place to put it with what I see. And, like these pictures of these men as they die, they were flashed across my screen. And this is something I learned from you, like noticing how people are flying Nazi flags and they still have the folds in the, like, those flags still have the fold lines in them that those Americans were photographed in front of. And it's just, that's, I see teaming in the details around, like Erica Kirk taking the stage and the fireworks and these photos and then Trump's tweet about making Iran great again. I see teaming in all the details just on a reverence and and um, and yet what you admire about the Judaic tradition, there's a reverence there for at least a history that's been being kept. I don't mean to make a I don't mean to juxtapose those two things from one another, but as far as like trying to, I don't know, it's just I almost feel embarrassed that wasn't more triggered by ICE as I'm triggered now by Iran and stuff. And Brad, thank you for your patience while I said all that. And it's good to see you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, you too, guys. Definitely. It's such an interesting thing for me. Just once I stopped sort of seeing the world in and of itself as something happening to us, as opposed to us being sort of in the conscious vessels, us happening to the world, or the world being sort of a garden, right? The idea of the garden. That's been the most fascinating thing to me in terms of like with particularly how religions move people and things like revelation. And the reason that I find revelations, because not like revelations is just the Christianized version of it, but apocalyptic themes in general seem to be very attractive to our something deep in our psyche, all of us, right? And I think it touches back to something you were saying the other week, James, about the fact that it's that feeling that no matter what injustice or whatever we've experienced, there will be justice at the end, right? It's kind of this tie to, there will be a justice. The thing that I think is so interesting to me now about how we're reacting to the world and the revelatory nature, particularly in regards to the fact that a lot of this is revenge cult. And I had to go through, we all did, right? I had to go through that myself of thinking, like you said, no, their hearts are the ones that should be sacrificed, and then all will be well. But understanding that, because this started to hit me a couple of years ago about this whole revelation thing, that it's like, because I saw how many people are coveting this end time, and like we're talking about the Benjamites making it their duty to bring it about. But for the masses, sort of, who are not the Benjamites, who might be identifying or not, but I'm just saying that I don't think they're realizing that we realize necessarily. Let's put it that way. That retribution from God that maybe we are coveting to see our enemies cast down. That there's a connection to that, like in a sense, we're identifying with that part of ourselves and pulling that retribution on ourselves, basically. Like we don't necessarily realize it like that. But like you were saying, both sides want revenge on the other. They're both pulling in the revenge, this Armageddon, if you will, on their heads, right? And that seems to me that part of this garden, and what I feel like maybe a lot of us are working on, is because you do look at the world and you see quote unquote innocence be brutalized, and that just rips you up, right? But I wonder if Gaia and what was going on here is the fact to break this cycle of revenge, right? Like, and this is how you're talking about, James. It's you have there's a certain naivety of just how decrepit some of these people could be, but the super ability is to be able to take that from a place of innocence, take that wounding and not enact revenge, healing that wound and becoming impervious to it in the spiritual way. And that's why I'll wrap it up just with the idea of curious what you guys think about the turn the other cheek, because I also think that religions and philosophies, all this history, the world itself encodes itself in layers, and we come back and look at the same thing and take a different meaning from it. So on one level, turn the other cheek on that rudimentary level is always, oh, someone trespasses you. Oh, it's okay. But I'd also heard in that at the time and place that was written, this was a power move of someone backhanding your right cheek was a sign of dominance, right? And so turn the other cheek in that regard, it was suggested maybe that what it meant from like Jesus' perspective, if you want to say that, saying that turn the other cheek in that regard meant I will not give you that cheek again to slap. It was a move of defiance of turning like into the because the slap's coming from the right hand. No, I'm getting wordy to explain this, but what it said is that slap comes from the right side. You slap the right cheek. That you turn the other cheek. You turn your chin into the force of the directing slap, right? So that obviously you're basically turning your chin to it and it's saying no, you know. But what do y'all think of that? The fact that on a deeper level, turning the other cheek is not really about taking the trespass, but defiance of saying you will not trespass me again.
Well, this is where Josephus comes in, because you would need someone that's going to take what people are saying on the street and actually get it standardized so you can go on the shelves of Walmart, so it can be distributed to everyone. And so the state's going to have a big say in what that's like. The same way that Wu Wei is the idea of being water-like was probably an original philosophy, but then the idea of, well, no, let's call it Wu Wei because we flooded the fucking city because those guys wouldn't listen to me. That this is the state would come in and place the same thing on that. So yeah, there's a definite. In fact, I think you'll find this sinks the point home more. The idea of everlasting life is not an original thought in religion. Hades was a place to be forgotten. It was never a place where you would live on forever in any kind of positive psychic way. It was a place where you were forgotten. Your memories would return to Sheol. It was, you could argue, Brad, that the necessity for everlasting life is tied to the psychic desire for justice in an early budding consciousness that doesn't know what the definition of the word forgiveness even means, that doesn't even have a concept of a temperance of forgiveness, of a gear that you could enter into your head where you turn the other cheek, or where you say, I will not just react to this. This is the emergence of what we call prison's gamble, that you can either participate fairly or you can choose to cheat someone, or you can choose to just react to what someone does to you, and that you have a positive conscious ability to not react to revenge. I would argue that this is something that was very revolutionary to the early psychic mind. The same way of, hey, don't put your dick in there. I mean, I'm sorry to be vulgar, but it's like, don't. It's going to burn when you pee. The same thing of, hey, don't eat revenge for breakfast. Don't do that. These are advanced psychic techniques. They also happen to work with how do we control the psyche of a civilization. See, it's always a conglomerate of what, if we pass this along, at the end of the day, everyone who's in control, what are they going to have to change about this philosophy to make it real, to make it last, to make it publishable? And you're able, if you use enough compassion, to unpublish that philosophy and say, oh, it probably meant this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And so you can unwind it, you can unwrap it. I think that's what we're doing with Christianity. I think what we personally, the things we discussed, are doing that. I don't see a lot of people doing that. It's the same. I'm taking a Jewish approach to, no, let's put it all out there, man. Let's say exactly what we did. You know, we didn't cut our junk off because we were bored. We didn't cut our junk off because we wanted to be more pious than the Joneses. We cut our junk off because we were literally afraid of being turned to stone, of losing ourselves into this lustful spirit life where we're wandering the streets, wondering why God has forsaken us, because he's struck down our member and caused this massive pain to emerge. Like, that's a huge, if you don't know what venereal diseases are, think about the psychic mind fuck to wake up with a venereal disease where you don't even know what that means, nor do you know what forgiveness means. But you find these dudes that are like, yeah, we wash our junk. We we don't have sex during the full moon or whatever. They're having the what when you don't have sex? Yeah, we stay away from trees. We don't hump trees. Well, how do you do that? Because I can't walk past the tree without humping the tree. How do you do that? Well, you say this prayer. You look down, you say this prayer, and one guy's like, I can't do that. He's like, well, I got another. Reggie came up with a solution. Well, where's Reggie? He's in this alley. Let's go see him. Reggie's got a solution. You're going to put your member on a barrel. You're going to cut off the end of it. And every time you walk past that pole, you are not going to have this problem anymore. This is exactly what Jesus did in the Mount of Olives. Tempted by a cock 3 times. Guys, don't make me draw this for you with cartoons. Tempted in the most sacred prostitutional temple 3 times. It's you're looking at how do we Josephus the fuck out of these things that happen to us so we can put them in a book, so we can talk about it to each other. So I'm not even blaming Josephus, am I? I'm telling you, this is how we would even have come to a written history. And thank God for people that are willing to write it down, that hopefully inside Rome there's 10,000 stone dildos under the Vatican. That hopefully the truth would be something like that. Shameful. We're embarrassed, but this is where it emerged, and Josephus is showing that. It's such a gift. It's such a fucking gift that we can look exactly through this lens and see it that way. It's such a blessing. Just like that.
James. Thank you for raising your hand, Clinton. What you got?
I was just thinking about the fact that justice and revenge is not going to be necessary with the 5G type of life. When you're loving fully, there is no wrong, there is no other, and it's a simple step. I think we're really close to that place, but you got people like BB, they're probably actually kind of scared, because all the sheep want to be goats. They're tired of being led. And so we have that wisdom now, or that ability to touch so much. And we're not happy with the fact that we only need to touch one other person. We only need to reach one other person to make a change. And I mean, that's all I have to say. I don't think revenge and all of the justice is going to be necessary when we're just full of love. That's the leap of faith, but we don't need the things that other people have, because they're going to want to just take it from us, or whatever that person that has that mind state seems just disgusting. I don't want that mind state. Yeah. I like to struggle. I think it's passionate, it feels good down here.
If you think about like you're at a park and a 5-year-old is playing wiffle ball, and he nails you right in the nuts with a wiffle ball bat, and you're pretty sure it's an accident, but you want revenge. It's like that, Clinton. When we reach a fully autonomous sovereign state, when we reach that sovereign state, there's no need for revenge, because we don't look at the world in that same way. Honestly, the turning the other cheek would be, why did I stand so close to a kid who's got a bat if I'm not watching him? Like it would be like that. When I would work with animals, if a raptor once put his talon like right into my skin, just like sunk it right in. It was like none of me was like, I'm gonna fucking get you. That was not the feeling I had. It was that was a dumb mistake. Why did I do that? I have gloves on, but he had gotten like right above where the glove was, and it was a different state of mind. I think that's the state that we're heading towards, because you start to see it would be sort of like, I'm going to kill that rock. I tripped on that root. Let's chop down this tree and burn it like a motherfucker. Yeah, you have those. I mean, we will enter into versipella sometimes where we get mad at the object that hurt us, right? And that's your versipella. So I think you're slipping in. Now imagine that state all the time. where the sun is your enemy, where the moon is your enemy, where everything is about revenge. And no matter how tired you would get, how you would only be able to live a certain while, even in that state, right? Because the calories would just eat you dry. So, yeah, you're looking at a constant. This is a gear. This is a gear of revenge. I could use this gear, but I can't use it all the time. I can't have my psyche built from this, you know? So it's always constantly teaching us. I think that's what Netanyahu's doing. That's what Trump's doing. It's just we're just too embarrassed to go, yeah, we're fucking letting this happen. Like this is our guy. This is these are our people, you know. They
Yeah,
raise in us.
we are. We're just letting it happen. You would think that in a free world, you if people cared, no one would be playing sports. No one would be
Yeah.
having concerts anymore. It seems so easy. I'm not part of the machine, so I've already stopped
Yeah.
participating. But it seems really simple. Like if I was team, I would say I would be Kaepernick. I would take a knee. You know, I mean, these people should be doing more righteous stuff. You know, they should do the small things.
Yeah, I think No Kings was an opportunity for that. I think people are trying to give that opportunity as much as they can. I'm not saying it has to be No Kings, guys. I think different people have different genres they feel is important. Others, there's a blackout movement that keeps going around that they seem to be gaining traction. The Marine Corps guy broke his arm the other day in the Senate floor, right? And that was one veteran fighting another veteran. Which is kind of hilarious because you're watching people really don't give a shit about veterans at all. They care about obedience. So they're all of a sudden the Marine Corps guy is a piece of shit. He's an awful guy. Why is he awful? Because he's not obedient. He's not obedient is what it is. And that shows you thank you for your
I had to,
service. You know, it exposed it all.
yeah, my friend really upset by that scene because she was like, you know, it's a bunch of other officers in the room and no one gave a shit. And I was like, well, that's because they're wearing the uniform and he's not acting like he's got the uniform on. He's talking like a human. And that's why you get your hand broke. It's because you were being humane in a room full of people wearing the uniform. They're operating for the machine. That's ultimate revenge cult. Scary stuff, but it's
And that's good
beautiful.
stuff. You guys
Definitely
can
not
drink
broken.
that. You guys can drink that.
Mhm.
You guys can see what that Marine did the same way you could look at Aaron Bushnell last year. I know that's a little bit heavier, the guy that set himself on fire 2 years ago, but that was he didn't like what Israel was doing. It's it's there. Why are we as a culture ignoring those voices? Why are we focusing on Charlie Kirk's death? Why why are we doing that?
I,
You
they're
know?
going to rename one of our freeways after that guy. The
Mhm.
Loop 202, they want to rename the Charlie Kirk Freeway, which is crazy to me. So, but I just the thought slipped my mind. So that's all I got
Very
right now.
Benjamite. That's very Benjamite. And you end up knowing that you control culture and you lose respect for it. Seriously, when it's this easy, why would Trump like Americans when we act this way, when we're this naive, when it's this easy? How could you? He doesn't have respect for that.
You think like these circumcision cults, it's all just to indoctrinate you into the crew so that you feel the shame and the pride equally or whatnot. And so then you're kind of umbrellaed into this bullshit where it's like, if we go down, you go down. And so I don't know. It just seems really weird that we've learned nothing in 6,000 years
I think
or
that
100 million
yeah,
years.
I think there's a very clear path through the forest of circumcision is evil, and here's how. I've camped many a night there. I've written a book about it. I mean, I am not against that path, but also I've really have come to see through this gospel of lust that it's a form of chaos magic, and that chaos magic is really no different than bloodletting. It's no different than a piercing. It's no different than any kind of magic where you were trying to gain control over the beast inside of you in some way. This is my new take on it, Clint. I could totally be revived
I
in
mean,
6 months.
it's
But I
better
can't
than
believe I ever thought that. But right now, I've been very much more. This is what I mean by I think we have learned things. I think that we've learned in order to uh, teach ourselves certain things, we're going to have to endure some strife, and that this is true. This is true if you want to climb a mountain. You know, Aleister Crowley felt that
Yeah.
there was something magical about being one of the few people that had been above a certain level of fee. This is a psychic thing that he was tapping into. He felt that I would instantly feel that I have more legitimacy to everyone else because I breathe less air than they have, or I've been higher than everyone else. The psychic nature of that is real. So, are you circumcising to indoctrinate your child into a blood cult? Great. This will work. Are you circumcising your child to indoctrinate them into a temperance cult? Great. This will work. Either of those, one is constructive, one is destructive. But let's keep in mind that even the destructive nature that we send our shoots down sometimes, such as the Benjamites, is entirely constructive for the rest of the population. And that most of the time, when we find a vortex of evil, a witch would be a vortex of evil, it doesn't really matter what the truth is. Because really, what needed to happen is a bunch of people needed to see that it was possible for someone brave to go to death for their beliefs and say, well, fuck you guys. I still think poultices are healthy. And I still think that, gathering fucking herbs is fine. Like it's, I think that's what we need to see. The Inquisition taught people that there is a psychic muscle that you can use and that your brother is going to die for it until you learn this lesson yourself. And only then will you learn to tolerate less. And so all of the evilness that we watch ourselves voting for is absolutely necessary if once we're willing to see it, once we're willing to burn when we see. And Cambodia is another example. All these different examples of things we can look at, and look at all the landmines that are still buried in Cambodia, for example, or look at all the things look at the 200 Iranian school children that we just killed. Look at all the hospitals that we bombed. It's I know everyone's got a lot of weight on it, but if you can afford it and you want to pollinate it, it makes sense to distribute this information for that constructive purpose of, hey, look how fucked up this is. That's constructive, even though it causes these kinds of colors to form. But those colors are cobalt, man. That's purple. That's the color blues. That's the color bruises. The colors, these are gross, like manipulative colors, but they get us out of this wine darkened sea where we start to call that color blue again. Where we start to say, no, that's the fucking blue, man. I just saw it as wine darkened sea. I think all of our emotions are that way, especially revenge. I don't think that we fully understand the catastrophic magic of being able to go underground as a psychopathic hunter for a few generations and then having to emerge from that and having to live for multiple generations of trying to forgive yourself for that. I think that most of us are probably on this deep orca journey that's much longer that we're not able to fully see yet. And it probably goes back to a lot of these revenge cycles where honestly that revenge would be sacred to keeping alive the sacred memories of we had, and most of those memories are what happened to me, what happened to me, what happened to me, because if we weren't remembering what happened to us we wouldn't be able to avoid it. This is why I was hinting earlier, this is probably why we invented everlasting life. If I can tell you a story that there's divine justice at the end, man, you're gonna fucking relax. And the only way I can convince you that there's divine justice is I'm going to have to sell you an everlasting life. This is why when we look back at ancient religion, guys, it doesn't start with everlasting life. That's not the first tenet. You know what the first tenet is? Fucking fear. Ball. Fear. I want my enemies to tremble more than me. That's the first thing you get from God. Hey, could you guys make them tremble more than me? Well, if you kill a few kids, okay. I've crowleyed it, right? I've climbed higher than everyone else. I've sacrificed all the right people to all the right things. Now I feel that my God's more satisfied than you are. And so the thunder feels like it belongs to me, not you. That thunder's mine. That thunder's my God. Where are you going to want to camp? In the camp that's convinced everyone that the thunder's theirs? Or in the camp that watches their king of Rome get struck down by lightning because he held a fucking sword up in the middle of a corn dog ceremony, Now for the next 3,000 years, you're like, we're cursed because our fucking king held a sword up, right? So it's like the first things that came online were not everlasting life. That this happened much later, and it probably happened around the system of justice when you have a system of laws. And the first thing to do is to create an outlaw, which is what? Naming of the wolf. You're going to name the one that does not fit into the village, and you're going to fucking kill that guy so all of you can feel that the thunder belongs to you. So the conceptual birth of religion is more about the psyche than it is about everlasting life. It's more about your own personal psychology, about like how you cope and how how you advance over the land. And I think honestly, underneath all of this is this desire to keep sacred our memories. And I can't think of a better motivator to keep something sacred than fucking revenge. Look at what this guy did to me. That this would be the most optimum your brain could be at. I'm going to remember this. And if you could remember that you're in a revenge psychopathic jaguar mode for 6,000 or for 1,000 years, what else are you going to be able to remember? Because fuck, you can remember. Don't tell me you can't remember. You were a jaguar psychopath for 400 years. And you only did that because
Yeah,
you
validation
actually
completely.
remembered what happened. You see what I mean? So all these things that are horrible and awful, the more awful it is, the longer you can remember it. And the longer you can remember it, the more higher the octaves are trained in your instrument of memory itself. And this is a powerful tool, right? So yeah, you get it.
Hey, Lori, it's great to see you. Go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Good to see you. Great live. I came on late because James, I don't know, the time was weird again for me. I don't know. I must have come on late or something and I didn't want to miss something. So it was important. I just wanted to share that I remember part of my initiation was when the medicine person came and said if I couldn't stay neutral, I couldn't stay. I'm like, it was like a core of living in how do I pollinate? I have to stay neutral. And so I wrote about love on my captain's log. And the love is about really having a lot of judgment, but the judgment is I don't know why. And so the Benjamite stuff was really powerful medicine for me because I remember when I first walked the Camino and I wrote in my journal before I started, I found this poem called the Thunder of the Perfect Mind. I don't know if you've read that. Anyone's read that poem. It kind of is part of the Gnostic Bible. But it's just this poem, right? But it's not just this poem. It's like it's this thing about it's all opposites. So it's like my husband is my son, and it's like how do you love your husband like your son, or everything that is here on this place that wants to get me out of a wholeness of poles is going to pull me to find that part of myself. And so it's like, where I want to love is where someone is in agreement with me. I want to join a hyena tribe to get love, but there's no love in a hyena tribe. It's like the love is in holding this wholeness. And James's work is like showing how many people do not want to hold wholeness. They want to go into, I kind of am in team Iran, but then again, I'm holding both sides, right? I'm holding a woman's side where, I don't believe in genital mutilation for men or women. I hold wholeness as far as what, having to be covered and kept as possession, but I don't need to save anyone from it. So there's this a both end. I can see both sides. And that's the part where the power's at, because you're going to be catalysts. That the pollination is catalyzing the disturbance in other people's bipolar or thinking they have the answer and they haven't really went back to. I love what you said, James, the first story. What was the first story? Kronos and this children and all of that. This thing of, so after, like, I'm kind of like in my mind going, wanting to be right stops me from love. and stops me from being able to even pollinate. So I'm just so grateful to have this group to be able to even share. It's all just seeming to come in. I'm kind of, I've been stuck in the solar plexus for so long from leaking energy of that masculine or feminine cup. And that's where holding the neutrality, it doesn't mean that you're not passionate about 200 Iranian girls being murdered. I am very passionate about that. But there's this other part that if I take that whole side where right now there's a lot of people on the side of anti-war, but we have this other thing that happened that Congress didn't even say that it wasn't okay that we have this thing that happened and we're not going to have any problem with that. I was like, well, how do I neutralize that to make this the best pollination or the best apocalypse ever? So I'm really excited that I'm alive in this time, that we do have a Josephus history. We have this history, and it's playing itself out. The revenge cult of the Holocaust being played out in front of my eyes. My parents having lived in Iran and told me how it was like going back 2,000 years when they moved there. That was very, very medieval. And then we thought the Shah wanted to bring all the Western society there. So we have all these people, Iranians, coming over here, wanting to be Westernized. We're a very young culture, but it's a material culture. And then the true Zoroastrianism that really was the ancient Iranian religion is not even practiced. We have this whole distortion. And how do you hold the wholeness, feeling this guilt and shame for being an American that has consented that? And I'm like, I don't know how to stay in it, but I know that there's a part of me that's like getting what I need to do. And the pollination is not always easy. It disturbs people when you do what you do, James. And I'm really grateful to be part of this. And I'm grateful for you and your work and all your other yous that are here with me. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Really, so much I'm working through stuff similar to you, and I just thank you for bringing all that up. And I'm gonna let Brad go ahead really quick. Brad, if you won't mind, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Lori, you're talking about the nature of the anti-war, and you just mentioning that was most fascinating thing to me going into 08 because of where we'd been from the 9/11 portal in, because there was such a huge sort of, I thought, anti-war crowd movement, right? And clearly at the time it was mostly what you would say on the left, right? Because we were in the Bush years. But when I witnessed Obama get elected and nothing changed as far as what America was actually doing vis-a-vis the Defense Department, but the entire war movement just evaporated. That was one of the biggest eye-opening things for me as far as like my politics or whatever, you know what I'm saying, as far as blowing that aperture wide open, because I did realize exactly what we've been talking about, that people a lot of times aren't really principled in the way they think they are. They just take the principle in the architecture that's convenient to them where they feel comfortable sitting. But when the principle gets challenged, it's like that's what gets exposed. And all right, I'll put this in the take this back to sort of the idea of masculine and feminine, because I know a lot of this you talk about the fact that you would say war and these kind of things would be the more masculine energy, and I think some would suggest that the masculine sort of unhinged in a way, right? So as I mentioned before, it's like I felt I was very in touch with my feminine side as a child, but I got my feelings hurt a lot by the world, just like people do, right? You look at the brutality, right? That's when I really I think my masculine side really took over. And it was something else you were mentioning, Lori, just about judgment there, right? Because I had been in that side of understanding, thinking I understood, right, these things about forgiveness and temperance, all this kind of way, that I wasn't supposed to judge anything, right? I wasn't supposed to, I misunderstood what judgment meant, I think, at the time, right? And that for me, it was me and my mother, it's sort of similar, and I mentioned this, I think, the other dojo, moving from that basic idea of Christianity that she was brought up in, and then I was brought up in, and sort of opening that mind. In the first place I went was sort of in Eastern philosophy, Taoism, and things like this. Once I started to, let's just say, even slowly learn how to build boundaries, right? Talking about that masculine energy, right? but really just to be able to make those judgments stand up for myself. Uh, and as I was doing that, of course, I was making judgments on what I see going on in the world, right? And the fact that, what I disagree with, right? It was interesting because we got into this sort of discussion where she kept on trying to say every time I judge that that's wrong, right? And so there's this really real psyche functioning at that level through people who come through religion, spirituality, whatever it is. But this whole idea of judgment, again, redefining words, ego, things like this. But they act like judgment is a bad word. But like you were saying, Lori, I don't think it is at all. I think that's a very necessary part of discernment is you do make the judgment. The key there is you don't hate them for it, right? And that's a harder thing to get to, right? So when I'm looking at the hyena, right, and all this kind of way, and the people who want this war, and for whatever reason, it's like letting slaves choose slavery, right? It's really finding that place of making the personal peace with it, in the sense that I think it's really retarded what they're doing, but I also have to recognize their right to choose that, because that's where they're at in their journey. That's where their consciousness needs the lesson they need. But yeah, that's all I got right now.
Joe, go ahead. He's Joe muted.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I had lunch with my friend the other day, and I I just told them that I was Native American, and her face, she was really shocked. But so she's really apparently she's seen some ICE activity. She lives in a neighborhood in downtown, but I haven't seen any over here, and I hope to not. And she's really upset about ICE. I mean, I am too, but like she wants to talk about it every time I see her. And so we were just having lunch, and I was telling her, and I'm like, I'm just going to start saying I'm Native American because I am Native American. And I mean, I am because I'm born here, but I also am because I have Cherokee in my family. But anyway, so I said, I'm Native American, and I'm like, and you are too. And she was like, how do you mean though? And I'm like, well, you're born here. How generations and generations, right? And I asked her how she was gonna, how can people stand up to ICE if you can't, be a pole in the ground, grounded enough to to do that, unless you say you're Native American. And so she kind of didn't want to talk about it anymore, and that's fine. But now she wants to talk about all kinds of stuff with me. So I think it does do something to, well, that's pollinating, I guess. Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, this is why when I talk about like effective pollination, not that I'm really good at effective pollination, but I have theories about how I could be good at it if I was to try harder. And it tends to be you want that 1 to 4% leading. You want to gaslight someone 1 to 4%. You're slowly leading them there, and you'll find how tired they where their tire point is pretty quick, and it's pretty early. It's people are pretty tired when it comes to going past certain things. The Native American one especially, because um, one day it may happen that a Native American disparages you for saying that, Mary Jo, and that this is part of the initiation of becoming Native American. And I think you doing that exercise in front of other people is I literally think that you are gaining more spiritual power yourself simply by declaring yourself that in front of other people. You're building the structure that's necessary. And more importantly, they're watching you level up too. They don't need to consciously understand what you're saying. All they need to do is be in your presence as you're leveled up, and then they will feel leveled up too because they won't have a choice but just regulate to that. And then if you can last an hour and a half with them, they've just proved to themselves, whether they admit it or not, that they feel that they deserve to be vibrating at a higher level because they spent that time with you, and that is all unconscious, unrealized thoughts that are much more deeply tied into the spine and our posture and where we're at and things like that. So it's kind of in line with the ego thing. I know I bring that up, but it's like if you were to defend your ego in public, you're kind of doing the same thing. It's giving you a different postural stance that really is contagious. You will never notice probably how contagious you are, because you it'll be when you've left the room that you'll really see the signs that something was there, but you don't get to be there because you're always here. So good stuff.
I just want to jump in really quick. We were talking about Native American. I mean, a lot of people, me included, get off and being a Native Oregonian. Like, Native Oregonian, born and raised. So why is that okay, but not Native American? That's what I got.
Said Renee. Hey, Nancy. Thanks for raising your hand. Good to see you.
Good to see everybody. That was good, Renee. That felt good, Mary Jo. I like that. I want to, yeah, I like that. So I want to thank Lori. Or no matter what you write, it's like, wow, it's like you're speaking. It's just so beautiful, the synchronicities and the similarities, and but I'm noticing, like, the more I'm honoring and respecting myself, I'm finding more calories to do that for others. So I'm really like finding energetic, like, proof, just how how you can sense and feel. I'm finding that I'm getting more energy and I'm getting more calories when I'm really just focusing on nurturing me. Not that I'm ignoring anybody, but you know what I mean? I just love this. To me, it feels like a paradox, or maybe it's something the opposite of how we were conditioned or something. But yeah, that's what I'm finally like trusting. I can trust my body, and it's been yeah. I really believed that I couldn't, because I was told I couldn't for so long, and it kept telling me, "Oh no, you can." It was the agencies in us, or especially when we're seeking and wanting to own our stuff along the way, Anyway, so I'm really, really appreciating where everybody is. I don't have to agree with you, but it's like, I really am honoring you're just in a different hertz or place, and we're all the same. It's just beautiful. There is just a beautiful, we're all in different stages of our blooming, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous out there.
Thank you, Nancy, for always coming and bringing an energy that's infectious. You always help me. It's great. And Brad, what's up, man? Go ahead.
Nancy, what you're saying right there about self-talk, that was something just recently. So is a song I wrote years and years and years ago. In that mentality, more so of that earlier understanding of what I thought, anyway. But it went back, and it's one I posted. But if in the song, I'm sitting there telling myself I can't, but that's that self-talk. I'm saying, hey, I can't. And it's funny because it's like that, and then I'm, sort of my newer perspective, sort of in that one, it's like, and it's in the song, it's just talking about what I can, and I think that's the difference in terms of like what we tell ourselves what we tell ourselves, right? Nothing is possible when we tell ourselves it's not, and that's just an excuse. So, Mary Jo, you talk about Native American, right? It's like, see, it's not like I go out there and broadcast it, but internally, like, I don't consider myself, I don't even worry about being American, being like totally disidentifying with all of that, but a native of the land. And I'm out there with the posture that whatever land I'm standing on at that moment is mine. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's more of a posture, like we always talk about, right? So this is also something that my friends have noted about me too, about the fact that, like, when we would parks and things like this, right? There's certain places they say, don't go this kind of way. And I was always the type that would go wherever, and then they'd be like, oh, rules don't apply to you. And it was just more of an early thing I didn't realize about myself, that I always kind of had this posture where if I'm, on the land, if I'm walking the land, then, this land is my land, this land is your land, right? But that's kind of how I approach the world in a lot of ways, and sort of dealing with the world out there is that I've gotten stronger and stronger in my own posture and just existing like that and waiting for like the world will show me when it needs to push back, right? Like, oh, there's a problem stepping here, and then I'll adjust. But I no longer, what I'm saying is, I don't really worry anymore or have the fears of where I can't. What I'm saying is the self-limiting beliefs, right? Telling ourselves what we can't do, where we can't go, where we can't. And it's just kind of like, well, I'm going to just start stretching myself going with that posture. And you know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's all I got there.
There's two, I think there's two kinds of plasma that you're kind of tertiarily touching on, Brad. One of which is, am I responsible for what Americans do? And I think that we would feel responsible for what America's doing on the world stage if we weren't fully realized as self yet. And that you would feel responsible for what the government does as long as you're relying on the government for your identity. So you and I could meet one day in Mexico City at Templo Mayor and go, what the fuck is this place? And you and I are now lifelong friends because we met at this city and we were abhorred by it. That's what makes us friends. And we met over our abhorrence of that. So we're not responsible for that. We utilize that procedure to meet ourselves, to find others like yourself. You gained self from that experience. And you're looking at a culture that doesn't know that it can be separate from what it does yet. It doesn't know what that means. It feels that, well, I have to be in agreement with the majority all the time because I'm a young psyche that doesn't know who I am yet. So I'm going to follow the herd. And you would want that. You would, if you got a bunch of ducks that aren't fully ducks yet, you would be great if they would naturally just follow each other. Like, that'd be great. That'd be kick ass, because then you can get across rivers and streams and things like that. And you don't have to worry about this stuff. And then you really only have to worry about the ones that are coming online. I swear to you, there's your problem. Is, well, fuck, some of these ducks are coming online now. Now they have urges, they have their own history, their own sense of navigating the world. This is a lot harder for me now. And so you could see why you would both simultaneously want a country that is both dutifully associated with America, as much as you would want a country that has resilience and not associating with America. I know a lot of people don't believe this. I swear to God. I have family that have been in the CIA. I think some of you have too. I don't think this is special. I think a lot of people work for different organizations. And I'm just telling you, that means I could have gone to the CIA and I would have not have been there going, I want to make people more stupid so they will worship me. If I was in the CIA right now, I'd be really worried that people weren't awake enough. That if I had $1 trillion budget that I could throw at stuff, I'd introduce LSD and I'd start making people fucking go out in the woods and find each other, because I think if they were to find themselves, they would be more dangerous. They would be more resilient. And if they ruled the land, or if they had children that ruled the land, I would have more faith in those kids running the system instead of the Pete Hegseth. He dresses his kids all the same. They wear the same clothes. There's 8 of them. I would not have any faith that America would be okay because I had a nation of stupid people that followed a dress code. I would be terrified. Guys, I cannot be alone. There's no fucking way that I would be the only person that even comes from the CIA family that would think this way. There's no fucking way. If you truly, just like if you joined the Marines, or you joined the military, or you joined the police force, yeah, there's going to be some people that are like, I wanted to join so I could be evil. Ah, ha, ha. Yes, that's okay. We get it. But let's also focus on the fact that if there's that, there's probably people that actually join that want to fucking help. And if you want to join and you want to fucking help, the first thing you're going to do is surmise how good your side is at fucking being men, or at being people, at being like resilient creatures. And I'm telling you, the CIA would be terrified at our limpness, at our cowardice. And that if they wanted to do a good job, they would light it the fuck up. They would light it the fuck up. They may even go so far as to start to introduce storylines that are so completely over the top that it has no choice, but some people end up falling out of line in the quadrants of quackeries and going, hey, I don't want to be I am an independent duck now. There's a problem. I'm confused. I don't know who to vote for. I don't even know if I should vote. You would be fucking doing building 7. You and I both. We'd be like, let's do building 7. We got to make this go down first. We're not going to get everybody. We want to gaslight 1 to 4% of these fuckers. We want to wake up 1 to 4% of them. And we're going to make it so obvious it's going to be such a gift. And only one guy's going to see it, and that's enough. Like, only 7 guys are going to see it. That's enough. It's enough. This would be real life collaborated change in a clandestine way, utilizing the backs of the very military hawks that are fucking it all up. Like this satisfies every realm of creativity, of Mary Prankster, of Illuminati, of holy shit, we got to fucking wake up, of I'm already fucking lit. What do we do to change? It satisfies every one of those things. And so you get to be in America, you don't have to feel ashamed of what our country does unless are you actively supporting this? Are you actively saying this? Or are you helping to pollinate it in a different way? That's all it takes. Yeah, where I'm from, they fucking do this to kids. They do, yeah. It's insane. That's not guilt. That's you telling people, here's what happens in my land. What happens in your land? Well, in my land, we mutilate females. Well, over here, we mutilate males. What do you know? Hey, high five. And all you're doing is just populating the world with gnosis. Here's what's happening over here. So there's no reason to lose energy. There's no, unless you want to, unless you want to associate because you don't feel enough of like a self. So you want to feel like you're an American, right? If you want to feel that way, it's there for you. And here's the structure. It's got wheels. It's got a sidecar. You put stuff here. It's it has all the necessary things that you need. And you get to believe in your freedom. And there's these symbols. Here's a hat. Here's the colors. You only get to vote for 1 or 2 people. It's really simple. You can't fuck this up, right? But when you get sick of it, you're going to find this other place, but it's going to be esoteric. It can't be popular. It's not going to survive if it's popular. This is where we brew change, right here. This is where we do it. And there's a trillion little pockets like this in the world, right? It happens when Mary Jo says, I'm Native American. She's like, what do you mean you're Native American? We're in Joanne's Fabrics. You can't be going around here saying we're Native American. Like, what are you fucking doing? It's exactly that. It's just so much more effective in this way. Right. We're doing fucking great. I swear we are. We're kicking so much ass right now. The absurdity around you is syrup on top of the pancakes of how good this is going right now. Seriously.
Can I share something really funny? Real quick. There's a new chicken place, fast food, and it's in DC and I think Baltimore, maybe just DC. I haven't seen one called Raisin Cane. Different spelling, but that's like in your face. It's just, that's funny. They're just putting it out there. Yeah.
Lori.
Oh, perfect timing, Nancy. Yeah, their Raising Cane is originated in Louisiana. It's so funny. So it's pretty good fast food. It's one of the only ones I go to. It has really good chicken tender things, real chicken. So I was kind of thinking about this best apocalypse, and I love Mary Jo's story about pollinating and how easy it is if you only give the 3 to 4%. But if you had to talk that person into seeing where you see, it doesn't work. You start to lose calories, It's like it's really only good when you could do it as a merry prankster or as like that Heyoka. So I Heyoka'd the medicine woman this week, and that was powerful. The Lakota this idea of, this passed on lineage of suffering and wanting to continue in this suffering, and then, wanting to trump the Native American, like that she's more sacred medicine than I am. And she said to me, you get to say you're a medicine person. I'm like, yeah, I'm initiated. I climbed freaking mountains. Didn't you do Sundance? I mean, women don't even aren't supposed to have to do Sundance, but you dance Sundance. And you can't tell anybody that you're a medicine person. And then you have to act all this lack and victim. I'm like, it is so corrupt. And then you can't even hold a witness to somebody who's out of alignment because you're afraid that you're not going to be validated as a medicine woman. I'm like, it is so crazy when I think about when you don't care, when you pollinate like you just don't care, raise your hands in the air like you just don't care, and you dance and you do this. The wake that I leave is fascinating to other people to tell me what's happened, because I'll never know. Like James said, I'll never know what, but it changes the whole trajectory. I think the key to it is the staying neutral and not caring. Like you stay in your own boundary, and your boundary is extremely loose. It has lots of ways that stuff comes in. It's not like, I know, like boundary. It's got all kinds of, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like a filtration system that you kind of have a tap on your rudder that says, I've now passed over my 30% and I'm trying to influence people. And that's what happens. So, and I was thinking how I've kind of met up with this relationship of like, there's, what is love, right? So I'm thinking, what is love in relationships? So what is love in a family relationship? If it's not somewhat hyena, we all have to kind of try to get along to have the same thoughts. And what I'm noticing is this war has done another COVID thing. This is what's happened. So the Catholics are totally pro-Trump. They don't think about it. We got a whole Catholic religion down here. They don't think about, just because he says he's pro-choice or not pro-choice, anti-abortion or whatever it is. The Catholics are now on with Trump. And so then families are having weddings or, planning weddings. And then we got the ones that are on, we can't stand Trump. And I'm hearing that people are having deathbed conversations that they'd rather talk about who's right with Trump than to heal their family wound. It's ultimately the best thing ever for watching the behavior. Where people lose calories is where you're not in boundary with yourself and your own alignment with self. So I found it's extremely, extremely fun now. I think we're in this, like, if you did the 2020 already and it was torturous, this is going to be really fun. So I'm having fun. I can't wait to go to my next thing of what I get to see and just, just give a little, because it's a higher level of love. This neutral thing is a higher level of love. It's like, oh, wow. And then the way I pollinate is by giving like my own shit show story. I'm like, so my ex-husband is now like falling deeply in love with me because I don't have to think I'm right about anything. Well, how do you handle that? Now, what is real love? How do you have an Aquarian love where there's no attachment? You don't need to live together and you don't have to play that games. And I love Clinton's last comment about giving dating advice. I've loved dinosaurs. Well, I don't. Well, it's over. I love that one. It's like, but how do you stay? How do you stay when a person loves dinosaurs? It doesn't matter if you love dinosaurs. I don't need to love dinosaurs. I got to love my own little reef, right? And then I was thinking about all of that stuff with my uncle was NSA. He was like a decoder. And so I come from the line of that line of people that can see. My father was a conspiracy theorist, and my daughter's in Lockheed Martin. I mean, they're in the Lockheed Martin stock just went up, like, because we're like pro-war. And to stay in that thing with my family and not actually do anything other than pollinate by not agreeing to be in the pack or even denying my own truth to self. I don't do that anymore. I don't have to say anything, but I don't deny my own inner rudder. So that's kind of the things I wanted to say. And the other thing is, I got the initiation of wearing regalia. I'm a Native American, but I was so ashamed to wear all my regalia, which I was initiated to wear the regalia because I was at the Native American thing, and I wasn't at, I was like, I got that initiation already and called out by numerous people to take it off in front of, shamed. So I'll say to you, it's the best thing that can happen is if you do it and somebody says something to you like, you shouldn't, it's illegal for you to have a feather. So this Native American person who has got blood of Mi'kmaq, that's Native Louisiana, Mi'kmaq, she's going to hide her feathers. She went and told me how she went and scooped all her feathers up because she was afraid they were coming to get her and her feathers because she's still playing victim in the Catholic Baptist, whatever the thing is down here. She hasn't pollinated it yet. She's held up in this wounded, I don't what the heck it is. I don't know. So it's not definitely not making a difference. Well, maybe it's making a difference because it ignited me, and that makes a difference. So anyhow, I'm rambling now.
That's a great stuff, Lori. Really great stuff. And even if you're rambling, it's some good ramblings. I want us to think about the more neutral. Lori was using the word neutral. The more neutral you become to your animosity towards other cosmologies, your immune system changes. And one way you could picture this is that when you come in contact with someone else, there are two immune systems in the room. And one of those immune systems could feel anemic. And the anemic immune system is probably going to be the one that relates to itself as a group or a class or a subsect, a title of some sorts. I'm a doctor, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. It's man, Clinton, I love the frozen picture of you right now. This is so true. Okay, that was so cool. I love how it does. It froze on a. I was like, wow, look at Clinton right now. If you think about it as two cosmologies that are competing, you'll notice that the more sovereign you are, the less your immune system is attacking the other person's immune system. And I think this has a lot to do even with the concept of wanting revenge. When someone wrongs you and you want revenge, you probably want revenge simply because your immune system was almost completely taken out by this event that just happened. It caught you by surprise so much that it showed you a deep, deep vulnerability inside of yourself. When the owl puts its talons in my skin, I'm instantly like, oh my God, all the dead rats that it's caught this day are now flowing inside of my blood. I'm going to turn into a rat man. Like that's the first thing I think about. It is an attack on my immune system, but it's not, I don't feel revenge from it. I feel that was dumb of me. Why didn't I catch that? Blah, blah, blah. It's a much more constructive form of regulation. I am regulating with the owl when that happens because our immune systems have clashed. You clash your immune system with everyone. Maybe you don't want to use the word clash, that's fine, but two immune systems are now occupying the same space. And when they occupy the same space, we have what's called regulation. And one of you will pace up and the other will pace down, typically so you can just cohabitate. And when you cohabitate, I think this is really when you start to find the vulnerability of growing neutral. One of the reasons why it becomes so hard to become neutral is because when you start to accept everyone's cosmology, you are letting down a defensive barrier that other people need in order to survive. This is actually part of why they find you toxic. You are toxic because you are not placing your defenses up in the same way that they are. You're not spending all of your calories on an arms race. You're spending all of your calories on your economy, your abundance, your roads, your your parks, your systems like that. And when another system sees you doing that, I want you to understand that in a way, your immune system is attacking theirs because it's showing their immune system how weak and feeble it is. And if you can have compassion for this, you'll be a better shaman in the room. You'll be able to have a larger capacity for the attack because constantly people are going to be attacking the neutral system. It's part of they feel this is a fraud. They don't think this is possible. They think there's no way you could vibrate this high. It's the same thing as the witch's test of there's no way you can be this much conviction. I'm going to fucking drown you. What do you mean you still have conviction? What do you mean? I'm going to burn you now. It's a testing because they do not feel it's possible, so they have to find a way to make it impossible. That's the shit test. And I think ultimately, until you're ready for the kind of shit testing that is required of you to simply be neutral, keep in mind, if you're around other people that are no longer in revenge cosmology, you're not going to feel as attacked as often. But the attacks are going to probably be more formidable because they're coming from people that are higher than hyena. Because right now it's just Chihuahua energy. It's just Napoleonic Chihuahua energy. And it does disturb your peace. It disturbs your tranquility, but that's about it. It's not a threat to your life. So your immune system is probably constantly going to be encountering these predators. And really how comfortable you are with your own cosmology is ultimately the ultimate litmus for how well you can survive the room, which is why I think your honest emotions, how much someone really pissed you off is really the only evidence you would have for how maybe weak or maybe unshored up your immune system is in that certain place. I may get an attack across my bald bow, right? James, you're bald. This is a constant attack of my immune system right here. And my cosmology, if it was weaker, that would affect me more. It used to affect me more, like seriously, like many years ago. I realize I'm talking about it now, but I'm still surprised why people are bringing it up because I'm just like, well, let's do something else. Come on. You, if you're lucky, you have these encounters. You have a conscious approach to those encounters. You could start to look at why did that bother me so much? And then you can start to be thankful for the predator that brought that information to you because there'd be no other way to find where that weakness is. I don't think you'd ever see it. I don't think you'd be able to imagine that you have a weakness in your undercarriage unless you go over this really, really fucked up ruddy road to find out where these things are. So the shaman, the Native American, is actually going out looking for others that will help them find where their immune system is, what it actually looks like, what the shape of it is. And I think ultimately you find that there's no needs to turn the other cheek. This is beyond turn the other cheek. This is thank you for your service to me. Thank you for showing me where my immune system is right now, what it looks like, right? So you're not in a you wronged me. You're in a I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you being
That's super
this
huge,
upset,
James.
you know?
That hits my brain big because that's just it gives you that understand like how you can irritate a person so like they're obviously have a poor foundation and so you start to communicate and when you're coming from truth or your own truth whatever and you're sure of it, it agitates the fuck out of people when they're in that group mentality and then they look over their shoulder, they don't have their crew and they're like, oh, it's just me and it's just my immune system against yours and you're making me sick. I thank you for that. It's really beautiful how you stated that. It sits
Well, it
in
was
my
something
brain.
that Lori was touching on, and I think it's part of the shamanic journey, you know, is you're feeling these things all the time.
But to be that buoy in the ocean because it's they're being affected by your surety or whatnot, or like
That too.
because we're
Yeah.
comfortable in your own skin. And so when you start to communicate with another and you're just assuming they're as comfortable as you are, that's going to start to, you know, you're going to get
Yeah.
into that camouflage that they're wearing.
Yeah, keep in mind that a lot of people feel that there's can be only one cosmology, and so they're going to attack you as soon as they see that you don't fit in with what they thought was the conformed cosmology. And this is part of why being neutral is automatically a more expensive place to be. You really are. You're opening your shutters right away. You're just like, look, fucking people are going to throw flaming bricks in here, and this is why the front room is for flaming bricks. It's I collect my alms of flaming bricks from people because it means, people see me. So
Being neutral kind of comes from going up the mountain and looking down on
yeah, I
the
think so.
You get that eagle-eye view,
And
you can
genuinely
see.
having the fortitude to be able to even put up with this. Honestly, seriously, like it's a legitimate power because you're no longer threatened by those things. The Chihuahua is going to maybe take 0.0% of your energy. You could afford that all day, so it's legit.
Right.
If you feel legitimately attacked, I swear to you, there's probably a legitimate hole in your cosmology that allows you to go home, pull it in the garage, put it up on the rack, and take a look at that.
Good stuff, everyone.
So
Thank you for everyone.
I just thought of the
Go right
word
ahead, Nancy.
porous. I'm sorry, porous. Would that be the word, James? Like you got a good boundary, but you're porous. I was just going back to what.
Yeah, I use permeable.
Permeable.
Oh, permeable.
Porous
Okay.
too. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with porous. It's just
Porous, right.
porous does have the word
Sorry.
pour in it, and I don't know. I don't know. Permeable might be a better word, but
I
yeah,
like
porous is exactly the way. And this is actually the original Hebrew definition of what it means to be a human is to be porous. You're here to be stabbed over and over until a bunch of holes come into you. You're subliminal. I realize we're over time, Cameron, but yeah.
Goosebumps. Wow.
Yes,
Great
really
talk
great.
today, guys.
Yeah, great discussion today. Great topics, and thank you for everyone who raised their hand and who contributed to today's conversation. I will go ahead and close this if everyone wants to unmute and say goodbye. And I look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Love you guys.
Right, tomorrow
Have
night.
a good weekend.
Join us.
Have a great weekend.
Lauren, you want to join us tomorrow night?
I may be going out.
Not reach out.
He's going out.
I'm turning red.
All right, take care, guys.
I'll let you know, James.
Have a good one.
Appreciate
Love
it.
you guys.
Thank you.